Alright, should be another draft physics presentation, trying to reason with people who seem to me to be quite unreasonable and illogical, and they're just breaking the rules. And there's just, you have to be able to explain a theory. If you have a theory, a projected model of reality, like up is up and down is down, some kind of theory you have, then you have to sort of explain how we figured all that out, how you prove your up is up and your down is down. And people just don't want to do any of that. You have to provide evidence. So, and the evidence has to be in the form of basically citing experiments, even simple ones, even just, hey, every person that's ever, walked off the edge of a cliff fell down. They didn't go up. That kind of thing. You have to cite some sort of information. So this Lucas guy, just one of these people who thinks they know it. They have the secret. They have the special knowledge. And they're going to instruct the rest of us on what the truth is. And they're going to do it without explaining anything. They're just going to make declarations. Alright, I'm cold. It's always cold in this frickin' dungeon. Anyway, let me give a few arguments that suggest your theory of force bits is incorrect. Well, you're not going to make any arguments that it's incorrect. You're just going to make declarations that it's incorrect. It's just bullshit. You have to be able to cite evidence, idiot, asshole. Okay, in your theory, if we manage to isolate two atoms from the bits of force, so theoretically that would be the same as isolating it from bent space. See, I'm arguing with conventional physics. I don't know if you have that figured out yet. In your case, I guess because you believe in ether, that would be like isolating it from ether. Let's see, coming from outside, those two atoms would not gravitationally... Alright, from bits of force coming from outside, those two atoms would not gravitationally interact. So it's not even comprehensible, but I mean, yes, of course they wouldn't gravitationally interact if there's no force, you dumb fuck. And this is really, really weird, do you think? No, I don't think it's really weird. If you eliminate the force, then nothing's acting on it, then it doesn't move. Yeah, that's the way it works, shithead. But limiting the force is impossible, fuckhead. So why don't you say, well, if we could eliminate the cosmic background radiation, well, go ahead and try. 2, I propose, so again, this isn't an argument about my theory. I propose that each one atom issue gravity waves. And you propose it based on what evidence? Where is there any indication that that's happening, you dumb fuck? And each one resonates, and more just using a word, but you're not going to explain how exactly it does that, with gravity waves created by another atom. So that's just jargon. Show me. Draw a picture of it. Show me one fucking evidence, one piece of evidence that indicates that's how it works. And due to geometry of the waves on one side and of the atom on the other side, and pull is induced through magic. The magical pull happens because things are vibrating. Somehow that makes a pull. No, it doesn't, shithead. Means in my... I don't know why I'm bothering with this guy. Means in my model, two atoms can attract each other even without mysterious force bits flying around. Oh, no, they're attracting each other with their magical wave bits. Waves created in no medium that you can possibly explain how you know it exists, because there's no evidence that it exists. God, fucking stupid, stone cold brain dead. Gravity waves are a real phenomenon. How do you think UFOs work? Question mark. So really, I should just quit. Time to block this lunatic. They issue own gravity waves which cancel out gravity waves of Earth. Makes no sense. First, they can't cancel out. They can only counteract. That's the only way things work, really. You can't really erase anything. All you can do is create an equal but opposite kind of force. Or are you one of those who say there is no anti-gravity technologies? Yeah, I'm one of those who say that the only way you can make such a technology is to absorb energy, and you can only absorb energy with a mass sponge. So you have to make a big, giant mass sponge, you dumb fuck. Also, how do you explain that a denser chunk of matter having the same volume occupy the same space? Well, because the atoms are bigger and closer together, retard. There's less empty space in the object, dumb fucking shit. And a higher gravitational force than a less density one. Yeah, that's right. More density means you can absorb more force. That's right. More material in the sponge. More sponge absorption. Dumb shit. Both of them are shielding the same area. Well, obviously they're not if they're of different densities. Density means the difference between empty space and matter bits. Matter bits absorb energy. Empty space does not. You dumb fuck. Okay, the only explanation you can have is that they attract more of the force bits. They don't attract anything. They absorb something. Dumb shit. But this proves your own theory wrong. That's just obnoxious rhetoric. You proved yourself to be a shit talker. You just talk shit. You don't prove or demonstrate anything with something called evidence. You fucking piece of shit. You arrogant, obnoxious, trolly piece of crap. You claim force bits are random. I don't claim any such thing. I claim they obviously have every appearance from our perspective of being random. But that's just because we can't see all the causes and effects, you dumb shit. And they are not attracted. Gravity cannot pull them, neither push them. Yeah, that's right. They're already moving, you shit. They are gravity, you dumb fuck. Okay, and last, if you admit that one object creates shadow on another object, well, again, this is an analogy, okay, just to so you understand. The key fact is, to create the shadow, they have to absorb the force, which means they likely have obtained momentum. So they're moving. Okay, because of creating the shadow. If you're creating a shadow, it means you're absorbing the force. It means you're actually moving. Then, in fact, you admit that one part of the object is shielded by another part of the same object, so force bits cannot even arrive at it. It's more retarded. Obviously, the Earth is being pulled towards the sun, but at the very same time, the Earth is also compressing. Everything on the surface is moving towards the center, you dumbass. Yeah, that's right. That's how mass works, you stupid fuck. That's why everything's spherical, dumbass. So no matter how much matter is inside of a sphere of matter, it would play no role for gravity. So more nonsense. But this can hardly be the truth, right? No, wrong. Fuck you. That's all I got to say to you from now on is fuck you. You're an idiot. Alright, so a couple people replied, that is simply not how gravity waves work at all. Well, there's no fucking gravity waves. This is some Bob Lazar BS. I don't know what that even means. Why do you not tell how it works? So let's see. McCule CS's explanation of how gravity works. I didn't see gravity waves anywhere, Gravitational waves are extremely minute in their amplitude. Well, not since we have the new phenomenon of turning matter into bent space, the non-Einstein invention by the people who say they discovered gravity waves are the same people who invented the idea that you can convert mass into bent space. And it takes an event with massive amounts of energy. So this doesn't make any sense, right? Because it doesn't have anything to do with energy. It has to do with mass. And mass is a collection of energy for us to detect them. But there's no energy. There's bent space. There's Hawking radiation. There's mysterious radiation of some unknown kind that can't be detected with any detector. except a gravity detector device, some horseshit. And it's extremely difficult. No, it's basically impossible because it's not true. Even then, the amplitude is less than the scale of an atomic nucleus, which, of course, everybody knows that we're really good at detecting that kind of stuff. Bullshit. We can't even aim a photon, and these people think they can detect something half the atomic nucleus with any kind of reality. Gravity, as described by GR, and from which the gravitational wave prediction derives, no, it really doesn't. Obviously, there's no derivative of Einstein's where you convert mass, solar masses, into bent space. It is a distortion of space-time by objects with mass. So more bullshit. I mean, this really doesn't have anything to do with space-time, because it doesn't really have anything to do with time. It just has to do with somehow a force created of gravity, and you can't make more extra gravity. And so all of this is just bullshit. Bob Lazar, in his severe misunderstanding, one of many, claims that gravity is a wave. So do you claim it, idiot. Which would be similar to foolishly saying that water is a wave. Well, water can wave, and so both of you are dependent on some medium. And so you can call it bent space, but bent space is essentially just ether. And I think Einstein even admitted that. He then proceeds to act like that what is fundamentally causing gravitational effects, waves, which is unbelievably wrong. Well, obviously the effect is in some form that can wave. So you're just doing semantics now. Gravitational waves are simply minute disturbances in space-time. Oh, you mean waves in space-time. Oh, that's what disturbances in water are. Disturbances in water are called waves, idiot. Not some constant fundamental energetic force that can be trapped into or canceled out. Well, you've done exactly the same thing. You're just telling us, well, there's this magical force that doesn't require any energy to create. Yes, we don't have to account for where the energy comes from. I mean, oh God, you're just such a cunt. Sorry, but, you know. If you were able to stop a gravitational wave from propagating, that would do nothing to stop gravitational effects. Well, that doesn't make any sense at all. Because obviously, now you're saying there's two mediums. I mean, the medium that moves the Earth and the medium that vibrates the Earth. I mean, that doesn't make any sense. Oh, we're moving the matter on the Earth, the mirror, in this case on the wave detector, and somehow that isn't the same force, the same mechanism that moves the Earth towards the sun. Oh, you're just so full of shit. I mean, you people are just so full of shit. Alright, and then this guy, the kook, responds to the idiot. Well, it seems to me that you believe that what they detected at LIGO is what I refer to as a gravitational wave. No, not at all. Oh, so you know, these people are just so nutty. There's two kinds of waves. There's gravitational waves and then there's gravity waves. Some kind of horseshit like that. God knows what they detected in LIGO, but for sure it's not what Bob Lazar speaks of when he talks about gravity waves. I do not believe him much, since he was not even a physicist. He was a photographer, completely out of focus, or something completely out of focus. Like that makes any sense anyway. And he was mentioning an element 115 as stable, and about its annihilation with some gas. And then of reaction that generates gravity waves that warp space, and you glide on the ripples. I mean, all of this talk, it's just talk. None of this makes any rational sense. As if you were falling down a hill in empty space. The empty space hill, of course. Everybody knows about the empty space hill. and that it was a principle of the anti-gravity travel was describing. So I think he is part of the agenda that was set to fool us. Yeah, you're all fools, easily fooled. So I would really not refer to him, since he was too much of a fairy tale in his story. And your story doesn't have any fairy tales. It's not all made out of bullshit gingerbread, you lunatic. But somehow UFOs must move. So again, things that haven't been identified as being real in any sense, unidentified flying objects, he says, are real. Yeah. They're real, non-existent, unidentified phenomenon. Sometimes they must deal with gravity and cancel inertia. So again, this is just, I'm not going to waste time with the UFO crap. Fuck it. Look at all the crap he writes. Starts as gravity wave spewed by atom immediately after absorption of a photon. And how does it absorb the photon? It spreads over the perimeter of the atom. Well, again, what's the perimeter of the atom? Oh, Jesus Christ. Alright, superior mind. Isolate two atom bits from a force coming from the outside. Would not gravitationally interact. Can't isolate them from all external non-frequency force bits. The atoms themselves only stay together and have charges as a consequence of such force bits. That's right, there's no freaking universe without the force. The force first. You gotta have the force first. Either internal or external. Fully isolated, hypothetically, they come apart. They require a general averaging external pressure. Well, the external equilibrium. They require pressure. The whole universe runs on it. It's pressure, 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 pressure. Take away the pressure, the whole thing just says, fuck you, I'm going home. One atom issues gravity waves, the other one resonates with gravity waves created by another. Well, atoms absorb, convert, and emit gravity induced, well, you should say emit by reflect. Induced force bits, when it is at a frequency, interpret it as a wave, raise with a period, and call it light. Well, bullets with an interval. That's right. Bullets with an interval can be thought of as a wave, but they're really not waving. UFO means unidentified, so you really couldn't know something works if you have no idea what it is. Yes, this is all quite obvious. I won't bother with that. No, the higher density one shields more. It's like having a net with fewer holes. Well, good enough, yes. A finer net catches more fish. Shielding by another part of the same object, so force bits cannot even arrive at it. Most force bits pass through most matter, since it's mostly empty space. You need an unimaginable amount of mass to block all force bits. Yes, you need very, very compact, like neutron stars or something. Alright, so enough of that crap. So, what a horrible pile of shit. So, alright. I mean, I should just delete the nonsense, but I'll leave it up there since people responded to it. I'm a former Star Trek fan who found Electric Universe through researching myths. Why would you research myths? Why would you be interested? Why wouldn't you conclude, quite obviously, that all of the old crap has a huge flaw in that they didn't understand shit about reality? So there's very few lessons that can be learned. Now there's a few things they can get that are really obvious. Don't punch somebody in the face and they won't have a reason to punch you in the face. Well, okay, you can figure out some obvious stuff. But everything else they talked about was in a context where they didn't understand what a microbe is. They didn't understand what lightning and thunder were. I mean, they were just fucking ignorant. So why would you waste time with myths? The beauty is that it not only explains stuff without black holes and other dimensions. No, it explains nothing. It's ludicrous nonsense. Okay, it gets rid of black holes and dark matter and creates lightning bolts that shoot from the moon to the earth, which makes no fucking sense at all. Wall Thornhill is boring to you. They're all douchebags to me in the sense that they're just talking shit. Watch David Tebbolt's Alien Sky. Why would I watch something called Alien Sky? when there's just no evidence that this biological infestation on Earth has any correlate in the rest of the universe. You need to look at evidence before you give opinions. What evidence have you looked at, you fucking cunt? That's the whole fucking problem. You have no evidence of these lightning bolts, you dumb shit. You have absolutely no evidence that Venus made any flyby a few thousand years ago. The whole thing is shit. Or you are just letting your cultural bias prohibit your openness to listen long enough to make an opinion. Right, so I have a cultural bias when I'm the one arguing that conventional physics is completely wrong. And yet I have a bias in favor of it? No, I'm afraid not. I have a bias in favor of, let's be logical, okay? Let's add up the 2 plus 2s and come up with 4. Let's quit doing all of this, crooked math and crooked perspectives and coming up with all these phantasmagorical, wooey bullshit ideas about reality when the truth is sitting right there in front of us. Push is obviously simpler than pull. Obviously. Play the video, then comment. Whatever the fuck that means. Yeah, that's right. No, I'm not going to play the whole video and take notes about every fucking idiotic thing the idiot said. Fuck that. I mean, again, this bullshit that you little pussies, you're just such fucking pussies. I sit there and play somebody's video, and that's not enough for you paraphrasers. You just basically implied that I had a cultural bias based on no evidence, not playing my video where I'm basically obviously ridiculing the standard model, ridiculing everything conventional physics has basically done for the last 100 years, and yet you're saying I have a bias in favor of that crap. Did you play my video to do that? No, you couldn't have played my video to do that. There is evidence of this in the solar system and on Earth. There's no evidence of any of this horse shit. Okay, it's really because the water on Venus or Saturn is something like the water that might be on Earth in terms of its radioactive number or some other thing, is not a miraculous discovery when you realize that in the earliest solar system things were moving around because the sun was, younger. Everything NASA does, a mission, all their predictions were wrong. So another insane statement. I mean, obviously NASA's been hugely successful. And, whether they got a few things wrong or not, maybe. But you just said, you're the one talking about evidence and like somehow people aren't being, their perspective is broken. And yet you see something completely outrageous. In terms of, it's not a fact, it's a lie. All their predictions are wrong. Wrong, that's just an idiotic statement. You can't back that up with evidence, shithead. This is not a good first video. You must purge yourself of mainstream academia. So look, what an amazing asshole. I don't know what this good first video. What does that even mean? It's obviously not my first video. And it's just a response to a religious kook doing pseudoscience. Or you'll end up with a student loan payment. Whatever. Fuck you in the ass until fucking goddamn dead, you fucking weak ass piece of shit. All these arrogant, obnoxious turds, and they know shit about shit. Debating physics with you would be like playing tennis with a 6-year-old. Well, why wouldn't, if it was for glory, I mean, really. So all these assholes that you agree with, Panda Woot, waste their time on flat earthers for the glory of showing how smart they are. So why not? Why not beat the 6-year-old who's right in your face calling your mother a fucking whore? There's a 6-year-old saying your mother's a fucking goddamn skanky goddamn whore. And you can't even come up with a counter argument. You're so pussy. It's just not kosher. No, it just demonstrates that you have a gaping vagina. You got no fucking goddamn nuts. Okay? That you're so fucking weak. You're running from a 6-year-old who's calling your mother a whore. A 6-year-old is not calling you idiot, fuck, dumbass, and your ideas mush. Yeah, well, I sure as fuck am calling you a fucking useless sack of shit. You fucking piece of crap. Yeah, you still haven't figured out the agenda here, which is to come here with facts. Defeat people with facts. And you don't have any. So, JLN Sweden. I am interested in magnetism. I've seen all your videos and would love to see more if you have more to learn. Fuck you. Anyway, whatever. Yes, there's always more explanations. So that's a subject I do want to get to. It's sort of related to magnetism. There's a guy, Tin Man something. Anyway, he did some experiment with a magnet, and where a wire jumps around the magnet, and it's kind of interesting as an effect because you have to sit there and account for the behavior. And so those simple experiments are kind of good for that in terms of they're good to illustrate what's happening. And so it has to do with the Hall effect, which is a theory they have about how conductors become magnetized. And I don't think their theory is correct. I think it's correct in the sense that, yes, conductors become magnetized, but the process of magnetizing is what's actually creating the current, the electricity. So I don't think they get that part right. Are there positrons? No, there aren't. It's just, so I don't know. You've said you've seen all my videos, and yet you would ask the question. I mean, positron is bullshit. All right, it's just a proton. This is just crap where they've decided they know so much about protons that they can tell how thick a piece of lead a proton can get through and how fast it's supposed to go. And can they be involved in magnetism? Well, obviously protons and electrons are involved in magnetism. This stupid positron bullshit doesn't play any atomic role. There's no place for them inside the atom. They don't have any reality, frankly. You can't find one inside of an atom, so what relevance can they possibly have? We know magnetism works just fine with electrons and protons. You don't need to invent a positron to make magnetism work. The problem is from the guy who you don't learn real principles how magnetism works. Yes, fuck you. He claims force bits moving at the speed of light hit into atoms, and magnet does segregate those male and female bits, well, whatever, red and black. And these force bits do revolve through and around the magnet at the speed of light. No, they don't. So I don't know what. I don't claim they do any swirling bullshit. I keep pointing out it's rays, Maxwell's equations, rays, Faraday's equations, rays of force. I say magnetism is a spinning electron. So you say it with no evidence. Show me an electron spinning somewhere. Show me an experiment that demonstrates an electron spinning somewhere. Smaller quantum of energy, but same principle. That doesn't say anything. Which then moves through the ferromagnetic. The ferromagnetic has nothing to do with a principle. You're supposed to be doing something elemental. There's no point in starting to talk about ferromagnetic. There's no such thing as ferromagnetic anyway. It's not a real concept. There's magnetic. Obviously, ferrous material can be magnetized. Material reaches the outer edges of the magnet, and since it circles within the hyperboreal path, it forms toroidal-shaped magnetic lines that interact with each other. Magnet. Inner structure of atom, including electron spin alignment, does allow this. So I mean, this is like Ken Wheeler nonsense. That's just gibberish, jackass. Show me one fucking experiment that demonstrates any of this stuff existing, any hyperboloid, any toroid, any evidence of this movement at all. Speed of energy revolving around and through the magnet is far, far slower than the speed of light, why don't you prove that magnetism is slower than the speed of light? The force is the same speed in terms of the reaction time, so this is just more crap from you. Crap. Oh, Flyora certainly probably won't be on the subjects. Hi, can you explain how thermos keeps hot water hot? Regards. I can, but I mean, it's really not. It's just really not the kind of physics that gets to the fundamental elemental stuff. There's a vat glass, so they essentially create a very strange shaped light bulb, and there's a vacuum, so in between two layers of glass. And so the trick is that heat, in most cases, the force involved in the heat is between atoms, and it's sort of trapped between the atoms, and so it's a pressure between atoms. And if there isn't some other atoms to push into, then the force can't be applied to another atom and make it move. So there's no ether anymore. So a vacuum takes away the medium required for heat to jiggle atoms. Now, the fact is that thermoses aren't perfect. I mean, all they do is slow down how much heat you're going to lose. So you can't lose the heat because the atom moved into another atom, and that means there was electrons on that atom, and the electrons had a force, and they pushed against each other, and so you can't push more atoms. And so what you can do is lose a little bit of the energy, in the sense that the slowly but surely the atoms, as they're pushing against each other's electrons, mostly bouncing off of each other's electrons, as they keep pressurizing and depressurizing and pressurizing and depressurizing, some of the force, that extra pressure, leaks out where it doesn't hit another atom, so it doesn't hit another electron, and so you keep losing little bits of the radiation, and that's in the form of what we call, in the electromagnetic spectrum, a big hunk of it would be infrared radiation. But there's lots of other kinds of radiation leaking from everything. It's producing all kinds of radio waves, all kinds of stuff is being produced. And what I would argue is we're also producing a kind of gravity. But anyway, it slowly leaks. The pressure slowly leaks. So when something's heated, it's more pressure because there's more little force bits, or the atoms are closer together. And some of that pressure slowly leaks out, even through the vacuum. So some of the energy does go through the vacuum in the form of force. So it has to be in the form of radiation. It can't be in the form of just an atom moving. And so that's why the thermos keeps it hot longer or keeps it cold longer, is because it either insulates it from energy, atoms moving. But that's really it. I mean, I could have said that better, but the point is the vacuum means that only force can travel through the medium of vacuum. The atoms themselves won't. They're not going to jump off the surface and fly away because they're attracted to the other atoms, the gravity of them and the electrical charge of them. So they're not going to just fly off. Pieces of steel don't just fly off, and never come back home again. They don't require escape velocity. They bounce off the surface a little bit, and then they're attracted back on again based on the fact that they have protons in them and they're attracted to electrons. So they're electrostatically compelled to go back to the material again. So they don't just fly off. So the glass molecules aren't going to just fly off, and so they don't. So the glass that's on the surface, there's hot fluid here. Hits the glass heats up. The other surface of the glass doesn't have any medium for the atoms to bang into. So the only energy that can move across the vacuum is the stuff in the form of force bits, the stuff moving the speed of light, radiation. And the radiation can go to the other surface and blah, blah, blah. But that's the only loss you have, is in the form of radiation. Do you believe in randomness? Of course, I believe there's no such thing as any random event. There's cause and effect, and all the causes and effects are caused by systems or mechanisms, so nothing is truly random. Nothing just poofs by any random force. So no, I don't think there's anything that's truly random. But for the purpose of the word, that is so having so many variables that we can't see any patterns. Yes, there's lots of stuff that appears random. What would be described as random, right? Well, I guess the creation of the universe could be described as random, but again, I'm sort of arguing that whatever the mechanism that creates reality, this physical, the difference between nothing and something, whatever that mechanism is, it's a mechanism, and it's probably not random. What is the definition of random in your view? Well, random in my view would be something that was truly spontaneous, no cause, no mechanism causing it, that had any process, that was time dependent, you could argue. Because that's the only way you kind of have to have no time to be able to create random, because any mechanism would have a period to it. It would have a process. It would have a reason. There'd be a cause to the effect. Oh, look at all this crap. Arc streams. Oh, wow, you get into things I've been thinking about as well, especially when you mention how the cone of light gets bigger and smaller the smaller the hole is. It's as if the more constricting, the more it does something to the light, and the larger the hole, the less interaction, so much happens on the other side. Look, well, I stated it pretty simply. No, the only thing that the small hole means is that the surface has a higher probability of being involved. The smaller you make the hole, the bigger the surface is compared to the area. So you're going to be closer to a surface. The smaller the hole is, the more likely anything you put into the hole is going to be close to the surface. I've been trying to make a laser beam from white light or at least culminate it as best as I can using a Home Depot single die LED. Well, you can't really create a laser out of an incoherent light source. I mean, you have to sort of obey some lasing rules to get a laser. Apertures of different size I made from bottoms of soda cans. I'm working with a 6-inch diameter plano convex spherical lens and smaller aspect lenses. Had some good results. For some reason, the smaller the hole, the better the beam came out as far as sharpness around the outer edges of the beam and improved divergence. Well, you have to do it over distance to really tell, because obviously light's moving very fast and you got to go kind of a long distance to see little tiny irregularities. I've been wondering if it gets better the further the hole is from the source or the closer. All you're really doing is you change the distance as you're changing, because the light of your source is always diverging. The further away you are, the less photons you're shoving through at one time. But we don't know that the volume has much to do with effects. I think the former, but there's always a smaller beam waste somewhere along the axis distance. I don't know, is that what is called the near field, where the beam stays the same and then suddenly starts diverging? I don't think there's any suddenly do anything. But anyway, crazy. I've been trying to make this distance much further away from my lens and think this is the key to getting long distance throw and keeping a small spot, but I'm not sure. Well, obviously lenses are, you're basically trying to compensate for what the light is doing. So it's diverging, and you create a lens that tries to compensate for the exact percentages of the divergence of the light. So the lens sort of has to be perfectly built to the source divergence. Now, that's the tricky part. but I don't know if there's enough consistency in that divergence. There might already be a pattern in it, as I've stated before, that so you can't get around it. It's like everything already has Newton's rings in it. It's just that we can't see it because we're using a tiny pupil to see the world. So we're not seeing all of the, we're not seeing anything close to all of anything because of how tiny our pupil is, right? It's a tiny percentage of the actual, like everything is projecting an image here, 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 here. I mean, there's an image going, all these locations have these little tiny images, big images. There's all kinds of images in the space. So one hunk of space has all kinds of images in it. That's why you can't take a picture by just putting photographic film and just stick it in the space and say, what's the world look like? It can't see it because it's getting hit by so many different images. They're all on top of each other. Also, if you put electricity into a motor, it will spin, but if you spun it fast enough, it creates electricity. Well, obviously that's the electromagnet effect. Wonder if the same thing will happen in a light bulb. If you fed it enough light, will it create current on its electrodes? Well, of course it will. I mean, that's the photoelectric effect. It's like yes, I mean, the photodiode is, the emitting diode is just a reversal of the photodiode. The first thing they discovered was the photodiode, the actual detecting of light. It's like a photoelectric thing or solar cell, but they are different. I have all these ideas and thoughts in my head all at the same time, much better than the ones I talk about, though. LOL. Wish I had something like you to converse and exchange ideas. Well, it's not that hard to make videos. But maybe, if your microphone works, we can have a conversation, but I just don't know, how deep your understanding is. So, mini blowtorch. Well, at least that's fun. Yeah. So, you got to make more videos, I guess. And whatnot. Alright. Politically incorrect. What is really point of this video? What is really point of this video? Why is the question mark got a space before it? I ask you, well, I'll just ask you, why can't you write the sentence correctly? I ask you, do you think that light is a particle? Yes, of course. Do you think that you can bend time or space? No. Do you believe that down the wires are jumping electrons from atom to atom so you have electricity? Well, technically, no. There's force between the electrons. And the key is if I had a row of atoms in a conductor, and say that all the atoms are pointing this way, that is, there are protons here and there are electrons up here. Proton, electron, proton, electron, proton, electron. They would have to be staggered if that was the truth, but let's not get into that. The point is that they're all tied to each other with force, and that they have to balance those forces. That is, over time, equilibrium will take place, and they'll all kind of balance their pressure. So if I took one of those atoms and I turned it 90 degrees, that would change the balance, but it changes it for all of them. And the key is that one little turn, that 90-degree turn of one atom, has a lot more energy than you think in it. It's like, that could be, 100 watts. Just turning that one atom completely and forcing all the other atoms to turn. So I'm just saying that you have to understand that electrons aren't really moving. They're moving, but they're not going anywhere. All they're doing is transferring their movements. So one moves, and it's sort of proved with alternating current. But the electrons aren't going anywhere. They're just moving back and forth. And that's all you have to do is have the force moving. You don't need the electrons to go somewhere to have power or energy. It's really just about force. Do you think okay, we already did that. You believe, Adam said, do you believe that they really did catch gravity waves? Well, look, you obviously haven't watched any of my videos, so what's the point of this? This is on a Ken Wheeler video. If you believe any of this shit, then you have not enough intelligence to, and should stop trashing somebody who is telling you the real contribution, trying to do real contribution. Well, he's obviously not trying to be real, because if he was trying to be real, he would explain what he knows about how ferrocells work. He'd explain how, yeah, even when I made the solar one, I had to make individual little holes for the solar light to go through, because it's really just an image that I'm casting, and so it's all projection, and every line in the ferrocell has a correlation to an individual LED. It's that there's nothing magical happening here. Let's see, every single true inventor since Tesla wasn't a true inventor in any kind of sense of the word, denied this shit, including Dr. Lewis is an inventor of atomic clock. Irony is that by this invention they were trying to prove this Einstein bullshit. It's fucking ridiculous what is happening on this planet. Yeah, and you're part of the ridiculous part. You're underqualified to express such arrogant opinions. I bet you really haven't watched more than 10 hours of say, lecture content. Or what books have you really read? I mean, what is the depth of your knowledge? Because I don't think you have any depth. Ken's input is actually refreshing. In what respect? It's jargon. Jargon, jargon, jargon. All he does is talk. He says words. He doesn't explain a concept ever. No matter if he is correct or not. So you don't care whether it's right or wrong. It's just pretty words. And if you cannot grasp simple things that magnets have no poles, well, again, yes, it's just a retarded statement. They obviously have two distinctly different polar ends. They're doing something at one end that's completely different than the other end, and it's completely rational to call that a polar difference. Then you are really not clever enough to understand anything. You don't understand that we invented the word poles to basically describe the two ends that are different. The north end, the south end, the up end, the down end. They're fundamentally different. People like you don't even fucking know why they are paying taxes. Well, you're just fuck you in the ass till dead. You're a piece of shit. You say nothing, no content, no argument. You're just an arrogant pile of shit. Ugh. Okay. I see what you're saying about how energy distribution is still a problem. Yeah, so now we're back to the bullet argument and the traveling through space thing. And the problem is that if you try to go very fast, your matter will degrade, and you'll have no way to deal with the fact that the matter you're interacting with will interact with you in such short moments of time that you won't be able to dissipate any of the heat, so to speak. I think The Secret was some sort of book or movie promoting New Age religious ideas. Well, I don't really care about that. I never thought Pirro would believe something like that. Well, I didn't think the comment implied he believed it. It was some sort of joke comment. Guys, it seems like you don't like what proposes the mainstream science about particle and antiparticle borrowing energy from the future and paying it back after a while. Yeah, that's right. I don't buy that. Do you at least agree that particle is a standing wave? I mean, it's just such a stupid thing to say. Do I believe bullets are waves? No, I don't believe bullets are waves. Dumbass. Alright, I probably should just stop reading this. It's like smelling a kid's farts or something. Oh, that was my line. Do you know what I had to laugh either? Despite he was speaking of me. I guess he means I had to laugh even though he was speaking of me. Incredible nut. Whatever. Oh, Piro. Gary, the Piro you replied to is some sort of fake account. Is some fake account, not me. I replied to that comment. Well, why didn't you reply to that comment by saying that's a fake Piro? Wow, bizarre. Shit. I mean, shit, that would have just solved it. You could have just said, oh, I'm the real Piro, his is a fake account. That would have just resolved everything. His comment was about him not being the real Piro. Yeah, I don't know how I was supposed to know that. He had your icon that you had 2 weeks ago, and now you've changed your icon. And somehow I'm supposed to know the guy with the changed icon is the real Piro, and the guy with the Piro icon is the fake Piro. Amazing. I did not leave that comment. Yes, you could have just said that. It's not me. It's a fake Piro account. Alright, that's why the icons were different. I don't know. The icons are different because obviously you changed your icon. I'm the real Piro. My icon is a picture of the sun in X-ray. Yes, but it wasn't 2 weeks ago, was it? Fuck. It's bizarre. I thought it seemed out of character for you to be talking about manifestation and the secret. Yeah, well, whatever. I don't know. That's just bizarre, right? Let's just go back in the comments to figure out why would Piro respond to his own troll as if it wasn't a troll. Why wouldn't he just say, that's a sock account? I mean, wouldn't that be the sensible thing to do? I guess it's been deleted. Out of luck. Okay. Yeah, I don't know how far back to go. Piro's comment was on the video before last, so it should have been already been, yes. Alright, so, yeah, maybe I'll save conversation on the Hall effect for some other time. Let's see if there's any spam. Anything in the spam. Let's see. Distance science is like a woman whose child is special and with whom no one wants to play. So what does she do? She starts to play group for kids so her special child can be just one of the kids along the way. Whatever this bullshit is. Fucking idiot. Oh, comment approved. That's not really what I wanted to do. Let's see. A bunch of this idiots in here now. I was wondering why people call you names, but now I get it. Without any reason, you start to insult me. There's plenty of fucking reason, you dumb retard. You're an arrogant fucking douchebag. Again, you just keep making these declarations like you talked to Moses, and you're gonna tell us what Moses said, and you have no fucking evidence for any of this crap, you stupid idiot. Ugh, so you're blocked. Let me give you a few arguments. Yeah, we did that. Fuck that. Alright, back to the usual crap. Alright. Fucking idiots. Anyway. Alright, so the thing that I saw was some Tin Man video, so I should find the title of it at least. Here it is. Monopole magnet field effect. So Tin Man Power is his channel, and yeah, let's see if anybody's figured out. I mean, it's right hand rule stuff, but it's more specifically
okay. So we've been playing with.
All right, so the we don't need all the talk.
So I seem to have lost my compass, but anyway, it doesn't really matter for this experiment because it doesn't seem to bother the
yeah, do the wire jumping already.
So you'll see I've got a wire, thin copper wire going across the middle of the magnet, or the two magnets, so it's in the dead centre. And that wire runs along here. You can see I've put a bit of a curly bit on there just to give it a bit of springiness. Then there's a screw on the back of that post with my clip lead on it.
Oh, just get to it already.
Power supply. I'll
Get
be
to it already.
the middle of our magnet, which is
Alright,
our two magnets
okay,
joined together.
get to it.
So as
Alright,
you can
there
see
go.
there, the wire's flowing around the magnet and stuck to the middle on the other side. So that's almost dead in the middle. I've put it slightly offset, it's probably about a mil offset from centre now on this side. Push the button again and we can...
Alright, so he doesn't go to the middle of the magnet, right? So obviously when the current he's putting through the wire is going to react to the presence of the magnet. So there's two things happening. There's the current just going through the wire, which is going to create all these capacity for electrons to move, let's say. And then the effect is there's magnetism in the area, and that's going to essentially magnetize the conductor also. But the idea is that if he turns that magnet around, the wire just sticks to the magnet. This goes straight down. So depending on which polarity it has, in one case it'll just stick to the magnet, in the other case it flies all the way around the magnet to the other side and sticks. Which is interesting.
See that the wire...
But it really just has to do with the fact that the wire is being magnetized by the magnet as well as the current. So they're not independent of each other. Both effects are happening at the same time. The wire is paramagnetic, it's reacting to the presence of the magnet, and at the same time a current goes through it and magnifies that effect, you could almost argue. But let me see what a better way to say it is. So one side, it's the side that has more north-facing energy hitting it, okay, goes south. And the other side of the wire then has to go north. So the wire, the surface of the wire, so the round part of the wire, actually becomes magnetic across this way. You know, across its, whatever you want to call that, its diameter. And that's what's creating the problem when the current turns on. That's already established. And the current just magnifies that effect, which means that's, well, anyway. It requires it's probably best to do a whole video on it, but it's an interesting subject. But we really want to just see what the comments say. So it's called the Hall effect, you know, but I don't know if the Hall effect, it deals with this phenomenon, but I don't know if it has if it's the right answer. Let's see, if only we could trick magnets with free energy, so that's no waste of time. If you started the polarity, it would show that the north repels north and north attracts south. So I don't see anything special. Well, I mean, it's special in the sense you just turn the magnet around, and in one case it sticks or repels. The fact that it's repelling and going around the magnet is the interesting part, where it doesn't go the opposite way. It goes only one way around the magnet. Now, yes, it's just repelling, and it's repelling all the way around, though, to stick back on the other side. But that just might be the fact that the wire can't go anywhere else. It only has one. I mean, obviously, when the wire's in tension, it can't go infinitely anywhere. So it tries to get away, and the only way it can get away is to go around. But it doesn't stay in a position, like it doesn't move away and stay over here away. Well, I'm not even saying that very well. But obviously it wouldn't do that because then the south ends are getting closer, so that they're repulsive. So say it was repelling from the north end, well, it's also repelling from the south end, so it can't really go in the direction of the south end, because even though the north end wants to attract to the south end still repels. So it has to go the only way where the whole force gets weaker. So it's really just about the net force is always weaker if it moves away from the magnet, the net force. So I probably should have said it that way. Let's see, have you tried this with magnets facing north and south? Okay, the magnetic field of the Earth is way too weak to have any effect. This is really bizarre. Okay, it's not really bizarre, but anyway. No, nothing excellent. I thought that the wire went down the second time too. Then it was exceptionally, but this, I don't know what this is. Hi, interesting experiment. A few small compasses in each corner might show what polarity appears around the wire of the magnets. Yeah, well, it would be nice if you had the polarity marked. Minor differences in the manufacturing of the magnets. No. You just changed the position of the poles by exactly 90 degrees from face side to side. Right hand rule, excellent demonstration. Let's see, thanks for sharing this. Good example. Good simple. It probably has something to do with that image that is in a document Charles Claudius Steinmetz authored. Oh, Jesus. Dielectricity. I mean, this has nothing to do with dielectricity. You need to make a ferrocell so you can see what's happening. It'll change your perspective on magnetic interactions. That's how dangerous all this pseudoscience is. People think ferrocells are showing them the truth, and really not. Anyway, showing them some. Obviously, they're true, but it's what you see isn't what your impulse to think you're seeing isn't what you're really seeing. All right. Anyway, probably enough mush. So, till the next time, and such. Yeah, it's enough. Yeah, I think it's enough. I will declare it so. Let it be written, and let it be done. Something like that. Save. Yeah, I might as well save.